My name is Kasia, and this is a brief description of myself. So I'm here today because I'm passionate about Middle East, especially recently I was investigating startups in this region. So Middle East is maybe not as developed as, I don't know, Asia or South America in terms of internet and new technologies, but still there are some places that may play important role in the near future. And also there are some countries that have just started building the environment for startups. And I personally find those places most interesting. So just to give you some examples, there are very well developed governmental programs in countries like Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Dubai. You probably could hear about international startups events that takes place in there, or in Istanbul in Turkey, Cairo in Egypt. So those are countries with already well-developed ecosystems, startup ecosystems. But also there are countries that are just paving their ways to create environment for new internet companies. And good example here is Gaza. So SkyGig Gaza, this is the first accelerator that was, is it working? Yes, okay, sorry. That was founded in Gaza Strip. So it offers young entrepreneurs founding, mentorship, but also office space. And what's very luxury in this area, also permanent electricity connection. So young Palestinians can now work on their startups there. Also Afghanistan, this is the country that usually doesn't appear in the context of new technologies. But this year in March, the first startup weekends took place in there, and there are plans to organize the next events also. And just last month, the first accelerator was launched in Azerbaijan. So those are a very small country, but they're also like starting to create startups. But today I want to talk more about Iran, because this is actually my favorite country in the Middle East, and I have a chance to live there for a while. And I also want to talk about Iran because, as you can see, it has attracted attention of Forbes, TechCrunch, The Guardian. Also, BBC News made a short story about startups there. So just to tell you what it is all about, I think that was last year in July that nuclear deal has been reached. And according to this agreement, Iranian sanctions should have been released in January 2016. So today we know that only European sanctions have been lifted. The discussion with the US is still in the process, but this is still a huge opportunity for this country. As after the economic sanctions that has isolated this country for the last 30 years, Iran now has access to international banking system. I mean, it should have access. Sorry. And so now there is a chance that there will be possible transaction from international accounts, banking transaction, and transferring money, and also internet payment. Currently, especially European companies are investigating this market as a potential partner to expand. So I will just try to introduce to you the potential of Iran. So the most important thing, I think, is the society. So this is very young and well-educated society, and we talk here about 80 million population. So around 70% of people in Iran are below 35 years of age. And also Iran has the highest rate of university graduates in the region. What might be surprising is that the majority of the graduates are actually women. But the most important thing, I think, is that people in Iran are very there's widespread use of new technologies, and they are very open to new technologies, to new solutions. And as you can see, there are 36 million internet users. And if you probably could hear about Green Revolution that was sparked there after presidential election in 2009. So social media played a very important role in those times in Tehran. And even though Facebook and Twitter are both banned in this country, it doesn't mean that they are not exist. Today, even President Hassan Rouhani has his official Twitter account. And actually, Iran is very good in tech field. So because of the very high level of education, Iranian managed to create some connections with Western universities. So even though the official channels are banned, and there are connections between those countries. And Sharif University, which is often called MIT of Iran, and also University in Tehran, they offer scholarships, exchanging programs. So young people can educate abroad, but unfortunately there's tendency of young people leaving the country for higher education, and they just simply don't come back afterwards. But this hopefully will change in near future, because the perspectives for young people in Iran are changing also. Iran is one of the 5 top countries in the world with the engineering graduates. So with so many very well educated and talented people actually struggling to finding employment in the country, it's no wonder that startup culture is picking up so quickly. There are many events in Iran, especially in Tehran, designed for young entrepreneurs to offer them mentorship and also inspiration. There are also governmental programs offered via universities, and there are some accelerators operate in Tehran and in other big cities in this country. So I think Avatech is one of the leading accelerator there, and its goal is to accelerate 100 startups in 3 years. And they offer founding, mentorship, but also network to local and international investors. So what we should know that Iran, despite the sanction, managed to create a well-developed network. So there are many entrepreneurs and investors with Iranian roots in Silicon Valley, for example. And also Germany is working on building relation with this country. And iBridge conference, that was a festival that was organized in Berlin just after Iranian deal last year. And they wanted to introduce startup community in Iran to the world, to the public audience. So all those conditions resulted in some successful stories about many internet companies in Iran. I think this is the statistics that has been published in The Economist in 2014. So they are not very recent, but still the biggest internet company in Iran is Digicala. It's the biggest online platform in this country and probably in Middle East. Other mentioned startups are Apparat Group, this is like Iranian YouTube, and Cafe Bazaar, that's Iranian version of Google Play. So as we can see, Iran is a startup clone market. So people in Iran, they set up companies that are Iranian versions of other successful startups, international startups. But still those numbers, I think, shows the potential of this market. Of course, there are some other successful companies. For example, Mammon Pass. It's this one here. And so this is a food delivery service, and they offer homemade cooking for the customers. And this this application is very interesting because it's run by women, and also it supports women in Iran because it gives them opportunity to work from home. This for housewives can have some income, for example. Also, there is Taskulu. This is like task management platform. I think it's something similar to Slack. And this company is very interesting because this is, I think, the one of not many Iranian startups that have actually international users, but this is because this startup has been registered in Singapore. Also, there is Takfifan, this is Iranian Groupon, Hamiju, it's crowdfunding platform, Bamilu and Mazando. This is also something like eBay or Amazon. So as we can see, e-commerce is a huge sector in Iran. Actually, what I heard is that over 1/3 of Iranians are shopping online at least once a month. Other interesting startups that has not been mentioned here, it was actually app that was helping Iranians avoid morality police. So the users could share the details where the police set up checkpoints. But yes, something like that in Poland. But actually, this application has been banned after 3 years, 3 days. Sorry. But still, doesn't mean that it not exist like Facebook and Twitter. So with lifting the sanction, there are many new opportunities for Iranian market, especially young entrepreneurs can now think about expand to and go global and expand to other markets. Also, young startups expect better opportunities to get funding from international investors. And this will also hopefully allow them to have access to knowledge and experience from people who operate in more developed ecosystems. But also this brings new challenges, especially rise of the competition. But I hope that everything will result in growing of this market, as Iran might be the biggest startup ecosystem in Middle East. So if you're interested in this topic and you want to know more about startups in Iran, I would recommend you to check techrasa.com. This is a page that is in English, and they have all the news about internet companies like startups in Iran. Also Avatech, that's a website of the leading accelerator in Iran. So it's also in English. You can also check Twitter account TechTehran. This is actually the Twitter account I contribute with my friends, and we share there all information and articles we find in the internet about startups and Iran and also Middle East. Or you can also contact me on my email. If I don't know the answer, then I can just ask my Iranian friends. So because they hopefully they will know more. So,
we just have one mic, so I have to do that. Any questions? Here it is.
Do you have some connection with startup groups, and which one in Iran, and how much you're involved and what do you do? Because I don't really exactly know what do you do with these Iranian startups?
what I do? No, I as I said, I'm more like startup enthusiast. I was also because I know Parsi, so I help Polish companies that want to expand to this market. And recently, I was helping also company that will try to offer their service to Iran.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I have a quick question about the prices in the Iranian market, retail market. In terms of prices of consumer products, how do they look compared to Polish prices and American market? Is it cheaper, more expensive? Can you tell us more about it?
I mean, I think it depends. So I was in Iran 5 years ago, and what I can say is I think it's cheaper than than Poland, for example, definitely. But I mean, the goods that are from Western countries are very expensive. So they are more expensive than here in Europe. But the local market is very cheap. Like that was 5 years ago, and also the prices are growing.
Hey, also thank you for the presentation. I've got two questions. One is, what are other interesting cities in Iran from, let's say, startup point of view? And the second is, how are there any regulations or boundaries, like for example in United Emirates, which company has to fulfill to start operations in Iran?
So other places where we can find startups and startups communities is Isfahan. I think it's the second biggest city in Iran, and Shiraz. I know that Avatek also was, because Avatek is based in Tehran, but recently it was searching for startups in Shiraz. But I think there are startups in every bigger city in Iran. And sorry, because I didn't understand the second question. It was okay. So okay, so the question was whether there are any legal requirements to open company in Iran. So in terms of the companies I was working for, all of them have partners in Iran, because registering company there might be a problem. And also, if you want to charge, for example, users for I don't know, your application or anything, you will not be able, because there are no these international banking systems yet. So even, for example, startups that want to expand, they could sell their service, like not sell, because they could offer service abroad, but they couldn't charge customers for that. And the same is in Iran. So you can try to offer your service there, but still you will not get payment.
Okay, quick question. So, one question: what's the level of English language, especially in the tech community, like programmers? The second question, more general. So, what do you think are the biggest opportunities for Polish companies? Is it in software houses in Iran, in outsourcing, or is it in expanding to Iran to sell our products there? What do you think is the biggest kind of opportunity, and what's the strength of Iranian tech community generally?
The first question was about what? Okay. So the tech community, I mean, basically in Iran, people in big cities, they speak really well English, and especially in tech communities, because as I said, most of the students want to study abroad. So from the very beginning, they want to go to US or to Europe. So usually they speak English very well. And the second question from Polish companies. So I think like in general, Iran is very open to new solutions, and everything what is Western is like very interesting for them. But I think the huge opportunity is this e-commerce sector, and because online transactions are very popular in Iran, and there are a lot of online platforms. So any companies that offer kind of service for online shops, or market platforms could offer their service there. If you ask about what are the prices, or I don't know, web developer there. Yeah, I mean, there are not many companies that, I mean, in Europe that operate like and that have connections with Iran. So because this is, I mean, the change has just started. So at the moment, there are just more companies investigate this market. I only heard about the companies that was investing there, but they also always need a partner inside, internal partner in Iran. Yeah, I think there's huge opportunity, but still, I mean, as I said, like the sanction has been released, the European sanctions, but it doesn't mean that it's actually now, it's not one day situation. So everything needs to change, also the legal system there. And I think still the problem is that the political situation is still not stable. So everything can change. Even after, I don't know, election in US or after another election in Iran. So at the moment, I think it's at the stage of more investigating. But as I said, I also cooperate with some Polish companies that want to expand there. But all of them have partner inside.
Hi. Could you say something more about e-commerce in Iran? How do people pay payments, especially how do they pay online? Is it credit card or PayPal or electronic transfer? And also, what is the most popular method? And then, is there a lot of e-commerce in fashion industry, especially?
So there is no PayPal because this is an American company, I think. But because of the sanction, Iran has a very good domestic payment system. So as I said, Iranians are shopping online a lot. And because you ask about fashion design, and yes, so I think it's also well developed. Because there are many fashion designers and people who want to who create some fashion and other stuff, and usually they open online shops there. And because when I was living in Iran, and I also met some designers there, and in those times, and that was 5 years ago, usually they could sell the products only in their private apartments because they couldn't open a shop in the street. So now everything is in internet, and internet is actually a great opportunity for them to sell the products because there are not. For example, in capital of Iran, in Tehran, there are no many shops with, I mean, like clothes or this kind of stuff. So actually, online shops are very popular now.
All right, my question is like your general feeling about the mood for exporting or importing ideas by startups there?
So basically, I think that at the moment, most of the startups are kind of a copy, as I said, of the companies that had success in Western countries. And if there are some startups that are original, local, usually I think they are somehow connected to Iranian culture. So I'm not sure if they will have such a success in Western countries. For example, I don't know, in Middle East, also not only in Iran, but also in other countries, there are very popular applications that help connect customers with a doctor, and today anonymous, because, for example, like going to psychologist or something is it's kind of taboo in Middle East in general. So those are, for example, applications that are very popular in Middle East, but I'm not so sure if they will be so popular in Europe, for example. But still, as I said, this is a country where population is use internet a lot, and actually at the moment they're looking local, they're using local startups, but I think if Google Play, because until last year, I think the access to Google Play was restricted, but today they have open access to this side. But this is also changing, so usually Iranian use, today they use local startups, but I think that in the future it might change, because usually they like what's Western more than local.
We have to finish. Sorry, because the pizza. When the pizza arrives, it's the end. So I'm sorry, but we need to switch to China. Thank you, Kasia Zajic.